Whoops. Whoopsie daisies. Okay, Angela.
Hi.
How's it been?
It's been great.
Okay, how are you doing? You're on the very low calorie protocol. Still injecting the HCG.
Yes.
You're like, looks like around day 40. So tell me how you've been doing. How have you been following the protocol?
I've been doing really, really well. Really well.
When you compare how you were doing in the beginning.
So much better.
Now I want you to define that assessment not on how well you're following rules. No, obviously that's an easy way to define the success of this, but the more difficult definition would be emotionally, how you are doing.
My mind is not taken over all the time with thinking, how am I going to get chocolate covered donuts and pizza? And I have to stop wanting chocolate covered donuts and pizza, and it's so hard to not have them, and that's not what I think about all day.
So all in all, would you say this is emotionally getting easier for you?
Much easier. And
can you see, is there hope at least for you to know that food isn't as big of a deal?
Yes, there's absolutely hope. Yeah.
How do you feel about one of these days being able to have a chocolate covered donut and it not being such a humongous, control?
It is a possibility.
You're getting closer?
I still wouldn't put it in my house yet.
That's okay.
But
you understand that's the goal.
Yeah.
That the goal is to be around any type of food and to be like, well, if I'm hungry, I'll have some, but...
Yeah.
Because you're not denying yourself. That's really important that we get to the point where you don't feel like you have to
I'm not letting myself starve anymore because I don't think I'll have enough throughout the day. I'm having stuff when I'm hungry.
Don't you find that so much more balanced?
It is.
I know, because you're not as worried. And have you noticed you don't feel the guilt worried. Like you used to?
No guilt. And everything tastes so much better too. Mm-hmm. Like oranges and strawberries taste so good, and shrimp tastes so good, and everything just that I have, I don't know, I just savor it more, and I don't look forward to it per se, like I used to, like chocolate covered donuts, like think about it all the time.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know.
Totally different, isn't it?
Totally different. Yeah, it doesn't have control over me. Yeah.
Do you understand what you just said?
It doesn't have control over me.
Yeah. Isn't that just so liberating?
Like Dr. Wayne Dyer said, when he said, it's so much easier not smoking than it is smoking. Yeah. When you're smoking, you have to put out the cigarette butt, you have to buy the cigarettes, you have to, continue the habit. But if you're not smoking, then you're just not smoking.
Way more time, way more money.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many less things I have to do. Worry about driving into town to get my
and hiding it.
Donuts. And hiding it. And
that's a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot of work.
Well, and it's really what we're trying to do is reframe your view.
And you can only hide it so much. It shows up on your body.
I know. That's hoarding. It's like, how do you hide when you hoard?
No, you can't.
It's kind of hide. And you can tell people not to come over, but eventually you end up dwindling emotionally, dwindle yourself. Do you find that you're developing some are you starting to develop a little bit more confidence emotionally?
Yeah.
Well, you kind of have to if you're giving up things that protect you.
Yeah.
Once you kind of expose the fragility of your soul, the only way it can go is stronger.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing or how that exactly goes. I did have a moment of weakness where I found out some really difficult news, and I ended up having 3 graham crackers. So I know I looked at it like, well, it's lesser of the evils, but yet I am still turning to food, but it's only happened one time in like 4 weeks.
I think that's huge progress.
So
that's huge progress. Remember, the definition of success here isn't compliance to the rules.
Okay.
As much as we want you to have the desire to, but the awareness of that behavior is the beginning of the end. Because afterwards, did you feel like that was worth it, or did you think about it and go, what was I doing? So if you could go back,
I knew what I was doing and I knew what was going on, you know.
Yeah, and then afterwards, did it do anything? Did it really improve the circumstance?
No.
Did it really distract you from what was happening?
I don't know.
For maybe a split second.
Yeah, a split second, yeah.
But was that split second worth? To me, it was worth it. I want to know why. Because of the awareness of it.
Yeah.
This is why when you stop judging yourself, Angela, all of a sudden, would you not agree you're more intelligent about what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
You're actually more grounded. You're feeling...
I'm not just doing it. Like, I can't stop it. Like, that's what I always
the lack
think.
of control.
I can't stop it.
The funny thing is you feel it controls you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you actually don't judge it, you are then actually doing the controlling. And it's not even controlling, it's just being aware of the circumstance, being rational about the circumstance, and the polar swings of all or nothing thinking, have you noticed they're starting to die down?
Mm-hmm.
That's the rationality. So it doesn't just do this, stop. Now, for some people it does, it did for me. But what we're doing is this. Eventually, it'll be like months and months before you ever get tested again. And it's not that there's nothing testing you, it's just that your emotional strength has developed to a level that the things that used to make you feel vulnerable don't even register.
True.
That is, and you'll all of a sudden be like, you're going to say, Robin, I'm not an addict. That was a byproduct of me feeling this way.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why I was so needy.
Yeah, really.
You know what I mean? So you're less needy right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, but that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's like, because I knew you could do it anyways. That's why the other thing is I'm not afraid of your emotional power. I'm not afraid of your abilities. That's why I'm like, get yourself in front of it. If I didn't think that about you, I would have said avoid everything, right?
Yeah. You can't do that.
Well, no, because you have to live.
Yeah.
You know? You have to be able to take those children and when they're adults, they're going to be eating and drinking, and you got to be around them and be okay and not feel vulnerable and not feel like, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, it's so backwards of what you think. Wouldn't you agree?
I gave them some chocolate cake this weekend. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I usually don't give them like any sugar.
Oh, I'm actually, that's really amazing because you're letting go of some of that control.
Yeah.
And you need to, because if you become a food zealot, a food Nazi,
yeah,
food craze, they will end up having eating disorders.
Yeah, they'll be, if you're too strict, they'll go the other way.
Well, then they're defined by that food. They think the food, it's like food religion is what I call it. If you're constantly harping on the food, then they tend to feel guilty, then they emotionalize it, because they feel like that's how you're evaluating them.
Oh.
And you don't want them to
feed them things that are not sugary.
Well, and there's some intelligence behind that. So here's what's really important that you and anybody else listening to this, that's a smart thing to do. But you need to detach the emotion or guilt from it, because if they emotionalize that food like you emotionalized it, what do you get? Yeah. Emotional eating disorders.
Yeah. I try not to offer them a cracker like when they're screaming or something, or a biscuit or something, you know, because I'm like, no, I shouldn't do that because we don't want to attach those two things. But at the same time, if everybody's serving cake, then okay, I'll let them have a piece of cake, but it's not something we're going to do, like have dessert in our house every night. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, you're trying to find balance.
Yeah.
Well, and the cool part about it is I think that you're finding balance yourself. Have you noticed that because you're more balanced yourself, you're more capable of seeking a sense of balance?
Yeah.
Yeah, people who have addiction, it's not addiction, but it's really low self-worth that compensate with something addictively. Do you see how I rephrase that?
Yes.
They tend to be extremists, and they tend to latch onto things to an extreme level. And then they define themselves by it emotionally, and then they tend to persecute their own children through that same defining system. And then those children end up having emotional issues because they're then defining your love through that system. Did that make any sense?
Yeah.
It's like layers of trying to find self-worth through something outside of yourself. And when it comes to a parent, and if it's not authentic or unconditional, then you're going to attach something to it, like you have to go to church and follow these rules, or you cannot eat this way. Yesterday I had a patient in here who is in her 30s, doesn't have kids yet, is preparing to have children, and really wants to get her health before she gets pregnant. And she has severe emotional trauma because her parents were vegans and they were emotional about eating that way. They raised all of their children in that type of system and were extremely judgmental and harsh and critical of anything other than that. So can you imagine why she has binge eating disorder? And I had mentioned to her, could you even imagine eating, meat? And she cried.
Oh my God.
She's in her 30s, so she's responding as if she's that child. And it made sense to me why she would cry, because it was so scary to even talk about that type of trauma that she was raised in, just with that food. Everywhere else in that life, in this woman's life, was very loving and unconditional, except for with food. Isn't that just so predictable, though?
Mm-hmm.
When you see it, not only within yourself, but when you see it with tons of other people, it's like it's very predictable behavior. If someone is extremely critical of you, they're comparing you to some level of standard that they created to feel better about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens to you? You become vulnerable with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tend to have issues with what they used, like the way you look, body image disorders, how you dress, the way you do your hair. Anyways, Angela, you are a product of that, and it's not true. When you really see it from afar, it's like you're a victim of that, and you don't have to be anymore, and you just need to start developing self-esteem and self-security, meaning loving who you are, because you don't have to live by the crazy standards that, like we've been talking about, like the criticism was because of your own parents' insecurity, and it's kind of sad, and you can have compassion towards that.
And it kind of goes on now, like once in a while, like maybe 3 times my husband has said, are you going to stop stuffing your face to take care of the kids or something like that?
Oh, and
isn't that like the worst thing that somebody could say?
Yeah, well, and he's resenting.
And
that's
I noticed his parents say that to him, though, like something like that.
So they're critical of the overeating?
Of something like that to him, yeah.
Well, and then in your case, you're going to tell him to go screw off. And you may even eat more just to spite him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just so vindictive. So predictable.
Can you believe somebody would say that, though?
Yeah, but you know what? You need to detach from that, what he's saying. Because ultimately, when you really think about it, if you separate the emotion from what he's saying, is what he's saying true?
No. Are you eating good things?
Well, that's how you're justifying it. Hold on. I want to make sure. It doesn't matter if it's good or if it's not good.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If you're eating for a reason.
Or because I'm hungry.
If you're hungry, it's functional.
That's right.
That is truly what you need to be using as the defining of whether it's appropriate or not.
Or when I wasn't eating when I wasn't hungry. When I was eating when I wasn't hungry a long time ago, he'd give me like this nasty look.
Oh yeah. Don't let him.
Oh my God.
But you need to get. That's who you're with.
His mom would do that to him. That's how I know that's where he got it from.
Yeah, but is that necessarily his personality?
No.
It's something that was passed down from his mom, who was insecure, who needed to control, who was afraid of. And I see myself do that with my own kids, and I catch myself all the time because I'm not. I know enough about food to know where it is damaging, and I have to be smart about how I approach it emotionally with my own children. Yeah. And I've had to say, am I being too critical? Chloe's my oldest. Am I being really critical? Am I making you feel bad? Mm-hmm. And I literally am like, oh my God, I'm causing the problem. And I break down and I apologize and I'm very clear with her. I'm like, I'm trying the best I can as a mom. I don't know what I'm doing. I am so honest with her so she sees me as an equal person and not controlling.
Yeah.
So that she understands my intention behind it. Like, I'm trying to help you. That is, but by being honest about it and kind of coming to her emotional level and recognizing that I'm perpetuating my, fear of the food she's eating because I know what's going on. That's the issue we have to kind of find balance with. Mm-hmm. I think it's just important that your ego is put away, that you're capable of not being above your children and demanding them to do things, that you become with them, understanding that you're doing the best you can and guiding them in their directions, but don't emotionalize it. Don't make them feel that if they don't do it that you won't like them more, that you're disappointed. There's that negative reinforcement through emotional manipulation that I think is the most traumatizing. Wouldn't you agree? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the intention is good. My intentions are right with my daughters and children. So I know at some level I'm screwing something up with my kids. and I know I'm doing the best I can.
You're doing all you can.
And I've said that to my kids too. I'm like, I'm doing the best I can with what I know, and I may not know very much. You know yourself better than I do, but I'm doing the best I can with what I know, and it's okay if I'm doing something wrong because you're going to tell me later.
Yeah.
When you're seeing a therapist and you're finding out that I ruined something for you. Anyways, so yeah, it's so funny how this all works, but comes back to like understanding from a far view that your parents did the best they could, and some of the way they were trying to parent you through fear and through criticism was with good intent. Mm-hmm. They didn't know that the reaction to it would be so harshly negative. They didn't know that.
Or even with praise sometimes,
Oh, totally.
Good job, you ate all that.
I love you more.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that?
And you ate a second helping. Oh, you are such a good child. Do you want more?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what my mom did.
Oh, yeah, and you're not alone. There's a ton of people who get praised for being the biggest eater in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they eat excessively because they feel like they're getting more value.
Yeah.
I know. The eating issues in this culture are so profound.
So I'm trying not to tell that to my kids because that's so normal for me. I'm trying to say, you ate such a good variety of foods.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Good variety. Exactly. No, that's beautiful. It's because you're not attaching to quantity.
Yeah.
And when my kids eat too much, they've had moments where they've had way too much, and I'm always like, doesn't it feel like crap? Don't you feel awful? I'm just trying to help them feel how self-mutilating it is.
Yeah.
Like if you were here and you were like, oh, I ate too much, I'd be like, tell me how it feels. Are you having a hot flash yet? Are you burping? Is there acid reflux? How does it feel to be distended? Do you want to go take a nap now? Oh, that's the adrenal system failing. Ooh, what about your thyroid? Do you feel that? Mutilation. Anyhow, but you don't want to also create such an intense fear of, the guilt and the emotion part. That's where things go wrong and haywire. When you can be objective and really think of things from an observation, that's where things get. So always be an observer, not a criticizer. And let them come to their conclusion of, I don't feel very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, doesn't it suck? Ooh. I have there's one movie my kids love to watch, and it's from the early 2000s or mid 90s, and there's this one scene where this mean principal, I can't remember the name, I feel really bad, but she was making this little kid eat this huge chocolate cake, forcing the kid to eat it. It's huge. And the videography of this is just brilliant. I wish I had it and I could videotape it in here. Because this kid is eating the chocolate and it's all over his face, and you can the video is going in circles as he's going, eating the chocolate cake. And every time my kids see it, they literally just are so disgusted because they felt, yeah, and I'm like, every time they're eating, I'm like, oh, don't forget what's his name in that movie, you know, and they all go, oh yeah, ew, and it's so great because I'm like, they have a remembrance of the mutilating feeling physically, so they don't want to do it, so it's preventing the desire to excessively eat. Yeah,
that's perfect.
But no guilt. Just remembering the physical outcome.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's not you telling them.
No, it's not me. It's themselves. I'm just like, I'm helping them be the observer on the outside. It's like if I catch my kids, or when I catch them drinking alcohol and being drunk, I'm going to be like, how's it feel to be hungover? That headache, pow, 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 pow. You know what I mean? Do you remember how stupid you were?
No.
You know what I mean? That must have been an embarrassing night. Anyways, so that they learn from it. But
sure.
Yeah, and that's what you kind of need to do for yourself. But if you're emotionalizing, you know, like those graham crackers, you wouldn't get it. Because you'd have guilt over it, and then you'd feel bad about yourself. You'd define your value by that, and it doesn't go anywhere. It becomes a stagnant emotional system because then you want to avoid the feeling because it's so you're creating such a hole of despair from that one circumstance.
No, I didn't feel that bad.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. So don't you agree that that's a really good thing? I agree. It's such a great sign of progress. And if you could go back and do it again, like if that circumstance happened today, do you think you'd react the same way?
I don't know what the right answer is there.
I don't know. Why don't you get a bag of graham crackers and put them in the toilet? I've had people do that, and it's worked brilliant. But if you're not ready to, I mean, do you have graham crackers in your house?
If I do, it'd be like 2 of them.
I highly recommend you get those 2, put them in the toilet.
So we don't have them anymore?
No, because I trust that you can handle those. They don't control you. You know, that's really important that you have them there so that you know you're by choice not eating them. You don't want them. You see where it's like, I don't want you to get rid of anything you feel vulnerable to because you need to develop confidence that the food doesn't control you. And if you think about the most powerful foods, you know, the ones you know that you feel that you still have that emotional attachment to would be the food of choice right now, which is your chocolate donuts. You're not ready for that yet, but eventually we want to get to where you go buy them and you put them in the toilet and you literally say, go to hell. They don't control you anymore. We'll get there, and you need to do that for yourself. But like when you think of those crackers at that moment in time when you were having that emotional vulnerability, we want to get you to the point where you are ready to feel that way, and you know you're not going to do the same thing because you're pissed about it. You're almost like irritated that moment in time. You want to redo it. You're like, can I do it over again? Are you there yet? You want to get yourself to that point where you're like, screw that. Give me the opportunity, and I'm not going to do it again, because you kind of start getting.
I see what you're saying.
That's when we start turning the view. You're no longer, you were viewing this from here. You're getting really close, and what I'm trying to say is, let's flip it now.
I'm strong.
Screw it!
That I wouldn't have to.
I totally agree. And so this is where I'm like, ooh, I hope something happens. And those crackers need to be right there and you want them there. You're like, this is for when I feel vulnerable again, right there. Because I'm going to show those crackers that they do not have control over me.
I can live without them.
Totally. And you're going to intentionally spit on them, tell them to go screw off, go to hell, I don't need you, because this is all me.
No more graham crackers.
Yeah, and then the next time you have a graham cracker, it will have no emotional attachment to it. None whatsoever. Yeah.
Because they're good, but they're not crazy good.
Well, they're not, but it wasn't about the taste at the time that you had them.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? It was really about your sense of vulnerability.
Yeah.
It was a sense of vulnerability. It was a sense that you couldn't handle whatever it was. And that you, for some reason, that those crackers had something you didn't. And you needed something outside of yourself, whether it was the graham cracker, whether it would have been a drink, about whatever the addiction is. So your thing right now is food, and hopefully by doing this, you won't need something else. When this is over, you will not need anything to support you when something is testing your point of view.
So this phase 2, how do you do that?
Same thing. The only difference is we add fat. So your process doesn't change. It does not matter. You're not to use calories.
Oh, that's right. I always ask.
Well, it's because you want to have a list of rules to follow.
Yeah.
And the goal is that there is no rule. Is there a list of rules to live by in the world? In any circumstance, is there truly a list of rules? Never. And it's relative to who you are.
Yeah.
So the list of rules for you is going to be very different from someone else. With food, for example, when do you have your period? When are you ovulating? Where are you in that cycle? Did you sleep well the night before? Did you have plenty of sleep? When's your activity level? What's the temperature outside? Are we having a pressure change? All of those things change your hormonal need for food. Should I be telling you how many calories to eat? And does that sound safe hormonally to you?
Probably not.
No, that's why we're getting fatter with the way we eat today, even though all the caloric restriction, all the calorie counting, everybody's getting fatter, especially women.
But obviously it will go up because you don't have the HCG. Right?
Correct. Your need for food hormonally, don't think calorically. Obviously, the more food you have, the more fueling recycling you have. You're getting more fuel recycled into the system. But your need for food is hormonal and then nutritional. But so hormonally, you are to only eat when you're hungry, and you're only to eat enough when hunger goes away. That will never change, Angela. Do you understand that? The decision to eat with hunger is permanent. That's my goal for you. So you're living right now as you would forever. That's not the diet. So that never will change. You are doing exactly what you are going to do forever today. The only difference is the food choice is now we're going to add fat to it. So where's the vulnerability in that?
That's good.
Nothing. There's no vulnerability, is there? It's just adding fat. So the benefit, you're actually going to get more taste. That's the coolest part.
I can go back to salad.
You can have salad now. You can have like
vinaigrette
with olive oil, blue cheese,
and balsamic vinegar. I know I can have balsamic vinegar, but it's just not as much fun without the olive oil.
No, because of the stick. Yeah. I agree. Well, exactly. So it's the same exact thing. Now, the test is, for you to be able to have all of that and it tastes so good and know that when to stop. Adding cream or half and half to your coffee. Ooh. I know, it's exciting. But the cool part about this is if everything I'm telling you works, if you could eat anything you want, now, not to start, you need to be intelligent. Know what foods affect your body. So this is the intelligence part, but just focus on the emotion first. Yeah. If you could eat olive oil, coconut oil, butter, bacon, ham, cheese,
Oh, I forgot about cheese.
Oh, avocados.
I could have string cheese.
Nuts. Totally.
And nuts.
Oh yeah, stuffed mushrooms.
Oh, nuts.
Oh, honey, I'm telling you all this. But if you can eat all of that fat in a day, and when you're hungry, and only enough for hunger to go away, 3.5, 5.5 zone, and you lose fat, how's that going to feel?
That would be good.
Liberating?
Yeah.
Kind of eye-opening?
That'll still happen.
What do you think? I wrote about this. Do you think I'm convinced?
Yeah.
How many people have I seen do this? Enough that I wrote a book about it.
A lot.
And said to the world, this works now. Don't expect to lose
at the same rate.
Oh, absolutely not. It may be a pound or half a pound a week, and then you're going to stabilize. And that's a good thing too. If you could eat like that and not gain fat, wouldn't that be miraculous in itself? Considering that statistically you're 98% likely to gain all your fat back. Statistically, if you don't gain anything back, that's so huge. So don't do it to see if you lose weight. Do it just to see if you can maintain and live with those foods without binging. To me, that is what we need to use as a value, not the scale number, not your body fat. I'm more concerned, again, and so should you be, about how is the new way of living going to be for you? What's the outcome? Do you like it? Because if you like it, what's the likelihood that you're going to keep it?
True.
Yeah, we need you to like it. Remember, it's the eating with hunger is permanent. It will never change. That will be the way you eat forever. And that's the way you're going to want to keep your children eating, because they eat that way now. So your goal is to be
perfect timing.
Totally, because you're going to just eat like they are. You're a child. You're to be a child again.
I don't have to feed us separate things.
No, you're to learn how to.
Well, you eat turkey.
You see what I mean? Yeah. You are to
Mommy's
be them.
Gorge. Well, you starve.
I really want you to live with your kids.
Yeah.
This is you are learning like they are. You are the same developmental stage as they. That's really neat that you're getting to have that experience and growth learning process with them. Because you are starting over.
I'm finished,
Yeah.
We're finished when we're not hungry anymore.
Yeah, this is, I love that feeling that I'm getting from this. Like, seriously, you are with your kids, learning with them right now. It's your do-over. Oh my God, this is going to make me cry. Always with you, I'm always crying. But it's just
it
so...
It is perfect timing.
Yeah.
Because I was eating badly up until they started eating themselves. And that's when I really wanted to change. Because at first we were ordering, Chinese takeout, and it's like, I can't feed my kids any of this. Or pizza, or they can't eat that.
And it also, what I love about this way of thinking and that view that we've created here at this moment is that when they have a chocolate donut, are you going to force feed them to eat the whole thing?
No.
Doesn't make sense, does it? So you as a mom are going to model exactly the way you want them to think about it. You don't want to attach any emotion to that, because what they'll do is they'll probably have a few bites and then leave with the rest. And that's is like where alcohol. You want to be.
Take a couple sips and leave the rest.
That is where you want to be. Don't you have that just so burning desire for that?
Observe them and they observe me,
and you're going to go, that was good, I don't need any more, I'm going to throw it away. See how I do that?
That hurts, but I'm doing it.
For a split second.
Yeah.
For a split second. And what's really funny is I sometimes have that same but I'm like, yeah!
Get out of here.
You can't do that to me. I do. Some of that's biochemically hardwired from trauma as a child. I grew up and starved a little bit. I remember being so hungry, and then at the dinner table being like just crazy. So leaving, having that with food to me it is wired into my biochemistry. But I know it's there. I feel it all the time, and I'm smart enough to go, oh my God, that's so not still existing. I don't live with 10 siblings who are trying to eat a small amount of food. And
well, that must have been hard.
Yeah, but as a child, you don't know that. You just know you're really hungry, And my poor mom, I told her that one time, and she was really upset about it because she didn't know that.
That you didn't have enough?
I was starving.
That you were?
Yeah, my friends used to hide. I would hide. This was in Alaska. I would hide underneath their porch, and they would bring me food.
Oh my God.
I know.
Poor thing.
I didn't know that at the time. Kids don't judge. Remember, kids don't necessarily judge.
Do what they gotta do.
Do you remember, did you sit there and feel bad for yourself? You don't. You just exist. Because you don't know anything different, and you don't know how to judge yet. So I just thought I was just weird because I was hungry all the time. You know what I mean? And now that I'm an adult and I judge, and we know, I'm like, oh, that was starvation. I was really starved. Okay, now this makes sense why I eat like a hyena. And it doesn't exist anymore, but yet I still have the impulse to eat that way, and I still have the impulse to hoard food, but I don't. Because I've detached emotionally and recognized, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So why judge that behavior?
True.
You see, so it's like when you look at your behavior with food, why judge it? It makes sense at this point, wouldn't you agree? Now we're making sense of why, but it doesn't make, you're intelligently, it doesn't make sense, nor is that occurring still. So the process of detaching is already begun for you, and it will eventually it'll be meaningless. Yeah, it's very, very healing. Yeah. You should feel much more calm than you've ever been in your life, probably.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't really have too many things that are